my PowerPoint's going to be frozen, huh? There we go. So tonight we're going to not have a whole lot of time for introductions. If we do, please introduce yourself as you say. Don't have necessarily a small enough group to be able to have everybody spend a couple of minutes. Plus we got started a little late, but I do appreciate everyone being here. So if you do chime in, certainly introduce yourself. And if you want to just tell yourself what agency or facility you're from, and if what your role might be, I'd be happy to hear and kind of share that as well. We're going to talk about, for those of you who may not have had an MSW student before, some information is going to be new to you. And for those of you that have, it might feel a little redundant. So I appreciate you understanding that the audience tonight is a group of varied individuals with a lot of different wonderful experiences that have been chosen to be to take on an MSW student, but maybe they're newer to an MSW student and maybe they're more seasoned. So we're going to just talk about roles and responsibilities. Some of the titles and things you probably, as you got accustomed to, the things that sometimes St. Mary's uses for supervisory names and titles is different than other universities. So not to be confusing, we just go through that. Best practices in field education. I like to spend a little time with the learning plan, the evaluation, the sense of gatekeeping, what that means. And then we're going to talk about Tavera, which is our field software program. And then we'll kind of wrap up with any questions, kind of final questions you might have. I see some initial questions coming in, and just because we've had a rough start, I just want to make sure there's nothing. If Liz or Allie want to let me know if there's anything you need from me or if those are things you're handling.
Nothing yet, just some intros and people saying hi.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. So we'll kind of skip ahead. I will introduce myself a little bit when I get to that field director role, but just a little bit about my history and how I got in. But again, I don't want to keep you long. So you've got the understanding that's my role and responsibility. I can talk to you a little more about what that director role looks like. All right. Well, first of all, social work field education. Social work field education, all of us who went through an accredited program, that program was accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. And so they hold all of our policy, procedure, they set the competency and the tone for social work education. So what they say is field education is the signature pedagogy. So the signature model of teaching social work is through practice. So those of you that went through a social work program know this, you've been through it. Other of you may have had a practicum, and if not, maybe an internship. It's really the same kind of concept. There's this idea that you're going to be able to, rubber hits the road. You're going to be able to take what you have in coursework, in the classroom, knowledge, skill, and practice it. Field education is a student-driven experience in terms of sometimes there's a variation in understanding of how independent does that student be. And in field education and for Council on Social Work Education, for the most part, this is what we call them a student versus an intern. A lot of times is because they are in an educational experience with you, and you are an extension of that education. Sometimes in field education, there might be a dichotomy or this kind of split. And well, you spend your time in coursework and then you're over here in this field placement, and they're really separate things. But we actually have a very integrated model, which means there's a seminar that the students attend every 2 weeks. And they have frequently are turning in assignments that are based on their field placement. We also have a lot of communication with you as supervisors to ensure that you're contributing to their education and not just, someone who is considered their supervisor, but you're an educator, you're an extension of our education. So field education is really systemically designed to be an integrated model. And so that's the model we have chosen at St. Mary's, to make sure that you are a part of that. And that's why a lot of times, maybe when some of you who are task supervisors, why it was really important for you to be a part of it as well, because as we'll talk about, task supervisors may not have that social work background, but sometimes there's a feeling that they're less important, and actually no, you're equally important. Your role and responsibilities are just different when you're involved with a student. So we're going to make sure that you know what that looks like and feel that that's an ongoing part of the discussion. So Council on Social Work Education, again, I said they set the tone when they set the competencies. There are 9 specific competencies that every student has to review and be evaluated on and provide measurable tasks in each one of these areas. So no one of these competencies is more important than another. When we think of social work practice, many of us are more micro level. But that's not what social work is. We are a micro, meso, macro training model. And so because of that, we have to have all 9 competencies covered and measured and worked on. And so I find sometimes making sure that reiterating that because I find that students often will go out to a field placement and they'll want to get right into working one-to-one with a client or a family, but they aren't learning about the agency. They aren't learning about the systems, and those are really important to good social work, well-rounded education. So those competencies are demonstrate ethical and professional behavior, engage diversity and difference in practice, advance human rights, social and economic, environmental justice, engage in practice-informed research and research-informed practice, policy practice, and then in competency 6, 7, and 8 is where we're going to engage, assess, and intervene with individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities. Again, it's not just individuals or families. It is all levels of the system. And then in competency 9, evaluate that practice. So again, all 9 are important. All 9 will be asked to have a learning plan that have specific tasks that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, how we look at that and how we use that learning plan. And for you as the MSW supervisor or in collaboration with your task supervisor, and along with our team of field liaison, you will definitely have assistance along the way to make sure that these are competencies are, if you're looking for ideas for these competencies, that's absolutely our assistance in that. And that's what your field liaison, who will be assigned to you and you'll hear from soon, will be helping you with.